A widowed millionaire, a mansion haunted by the past, and a young virgin hired to clean secrets that should never be touched. And when he asked just one night, she said yes. If you love stories of love and romance, watch until the end. You won't regret it. Subscribe to this channel and leave a comment saying where you're listening to this beautiful story from. We continue. If the story has interested you, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and tell us from which city you are watching us. We will continue. High on a hill surrounded by ancient vineyards and persistent fog, rests Montero Estate, an imposing construction of red quarry stone sculpted over the ruins of a forgotten chapel erected centuries ago in Bath, Somerset. Isolated from the world by wrought iron gates and shadows that seem to move on their own, the estate is home to Theodore Montero, a wine magnate, a widower, with an intense presence and eyes as grey as an English winter. Since the tragic departure of his wife, Eleanor, 6 years ago, Theodore has cloistered himself in that silent world, where time has stopped and guilt has become his only constant companion. No one sees him outside. Employees are hired by third parties, obey strict rules and never meet him personally. The house, it is said, carries not only memories, but ancient pacts with something beyond comprehension. Rosalind, the 60-year-old housekeeper, a woman with a severe face and eyes that have seen too much, is the only one who enters the master's study. She knows the shadows of the estate better than anyone. Mr. Montero hasn't left his study for 2 months, she confides to Xavier the gardener as she arranges the jasmine in the central courtyard. He only accepts the food tray and returns the plates empty. Something is consuming him from within. Xavier, a robust man with calloused hands, nods as he prunes a rose bush. They say in the village that Mrs. Eleanor hasn't left the house, that her spirit walks the halls at night. Hush, man. These walls hear everything, Rosalind replies, crossing herself. It is into this setting that Amelia Valdez arrives, a 22-year-old orphan, raised in a convent in the Scottish Highlands. Delicate, with restrained gestures and a poetic soul, she has always been marked by recurrent dreams of a house enveloped in fog, dreams that now take shape, as if an invisible thread had drawn her there. The job offer came without explanation, but with promises of stability and a library with free access, a rare condition for any employee. She accepts. When she crosses the estate's gates, she feels as if she has entered not just a place but a destiny, traced long before her birth. Something moves around her and within her. The bus drops her in the town of St. Ives at dawn. An old van, driven by a silent man, waits to take her along the cobblestone road that winds between ancient cypresses to the estate. As they ascend the hill, the fog grows denser, as if it were a protective cloak for the secrets that await above. "Are you the new librarian?" the driver asks, breaking the silence. "Yes," Amelia replies, clutching her small suitcase. "They told me I would organize Mr. Montero's private collection." The man looks at her in the rearview mirror, and his eyes reflect something akin to compassion. "Be careful, miss. That house, it's not like the others." Before she can ask what that means, the iron gates appear before them, majestic and menacing at once. 2 stone gargoyles guard the entrance, their faces weathered by time but still vigilant. The van stops in front of the main entrance. Amelia descends, feeling the cold air caress her face. The estate rises before her. 3 stories of red quarry stone, tall windows, wrought iron balconies, and a carved wooden door with motifs of vines and marigolds. Rosalind greets her at the entrance, her severe expression evaluating her from head to toe. "You've arrived early, Miss Valdez. We weren't expecting you until the afternoon." "The bus from North Carolina only has one schedule," Amelia explains, intimidated by the housekeeper's imposing presence. "Follow me. I'll show you to your room and then explain the house rules." Amelia follows Rosalind through a spacious foyer, decorated with colonial art and old sepia photographs. The house is larger than she imagined, with high ceilings and corridors that seem to stretch infinitely. There's a subtle perfume of jasmine permeating the air, mixed with the scent of old wood and beeswax. Her room is on the 2nd floor, a modest but elegant space with a wrought iron bed, a mahogany desk, and a window overlooking the vineyards. From there she can see miles of vines arranged in perfect rows, embracing the hills until they disappear into the distance. "The bathroom is at the end of the hall," Rosalind explains. "Breakfast is served at 7, lunch at 1 and dinner at 7 in the evening. The library is on the 1st floor, east wing. Your work begins tomorrow. Amelia nods, absorbing every word as she places her suitcase on the bed. Will I meet Mr. Montero today? Something changes in Rosalind's face. A shadow, perhaps worry. The master does not receive anyone personally. You will receive written instructions each morning. Before Amelia can ask more, Rosalind continues in a firm voice. There are strict rules in this house, Miss Valdez. First, you are not allowed to enter the west wing of the third floor under any circumstances. Second, you do not wander through the house after 10 at night. Third, if you hear music, do not follow it. Music? Amelia asks, confused. Sometimes, Rosalind replies, avoiding her gaze. A piano is heard. Ignore it. She turns towards the door and adds, dinner will be served in the small dining room. Rest until then. When she is alone, Amelia opens her suitcase and begins to unpack her few belongings. Some simple dresses, a poetry notebook, a wooden rosary and a small music box she has had for as long as she can remember, though she doesn't recall who gave it to her. She approaches the window, watching the fog entangle itself among the vines like ghostly fingers. For an instant, she thinks she sees a feminine figure among the vineyards, a white silhouette that vanishes when she blinks. The house seems to breathe. There are doors that close on their own, mirrors that seem to show beyond their reflection, and that jasmine perfume that intensifies in certain corners, as if someone invisible had just passed by. That night, during dinner, she meets the other employees, Xavier, the gardener, Dolores, the cook with round cheeks and agile hands, and Matthew, the young stable boy who takes care of the horses. They all look at her with curiosity, but also with a certain caution. Is it true you come from a convent in North Carolina? Dolores asks while serving a chicken broth with fresh vegetables. Yes, the Sisters of Mercy raised me from a young age, Amelia replies. They taught me literature and music. And your parents? Matthew asks, immediately receiving an elbow nudge from Xavier. I never knew them, she replies with a sad smile. I was left at the convent when I was a baby. An uncomfortable silence falls over the table. Rosalind, who eats at the head, observes Amelia intently, as if searching for something in her face. After dinner, Amelia returns to her room. The fatigue of the journey weighs on her eyelids, but curiosity is stronger. She opens the door and peeks into the hallway, tempted to explore the estate. The corridor is lit by oil lamps that cast dancing shadows on the walls. She walks slowly, her steps muffled by the thick red carpet. She finds the library easily, a spacious room with shelves reaching the ceiling, filled with ancient and modern books. In the center is a polished mahogany desk, and by the window, a divan upholstered in green velvet. As she traces her fingers along the spines of the books, something catches her attention, an oil portrait above the fireplace covered with a white canvas. Curiosity pushes her to approach, to extend her hand towards the fabric. You shouldn't be here at this hour, a man's deep voice startles her. Amelia turns quickly. In the doorway stands a tall man, broad-shouldered with an angular face and black hair with some grey at the temples. His grey eyes observe her with a mixture of surprise and something deeper, almost painful. I'm sorry, she stammers. I just wanted to see the library where I'll be working. The man doesn't reply immediately. He watches her as if he sees a ghost, as if she were an impossible apparition from another time. Are you Mr. Montero? Amelia asks, though she already knows the answer. He nods slowly. And you must be Miss Valdez. There is something in his voice, in his gaze, that sends a shiver down Amelia's spine. It's not fear she feels, but something more primitive, more profound. As if she had found something she had been searching for all her life without knowing it. Excuse the intrusion, she says, moving towards the door. I'll retire to my room. But as she passes him, Theodore Montero gently stops her by the arm. The contact is brief, barely a brush, but it sends an electric current through her body. You have he begins, his voice a hoarse whisper, something familiar. Amelia looks up, meeting those grey eyes that seem to contain entire storms. I feel the same, Mr. Montero, as if we already knew each other. A clock strikes 10 somewhere in the house. The spell is broken. Theodore steps back, his face returning to a mask of cold composure. Good night, Miss Valdez. Tomorrow you will find your instructions on the desk. And so, he disappears into the darkness of the hallway, leaving Amelia with a racing heart and 1,000 unanswered questions. Amelia's first week at Montero Estate passes among dusty books and yellowed catalogues. Her task is to organize the family's vast library, classifying volumes spanning 5 centuries of history, literature, and science. She works meticulously, fascinated by the literary relics that pass through her hands. First editions of Jane Austen, manuscripts from the colonial era, treatises on viticulture dating back to when the English introduced the first vines to Bath. But beyond the books, it is the house itself that becomes her greatest enigma. Each morning she finds written instructions on the library desk in elegant, firm calligraphy. She never sees who leaves them there, though she knows it is Theodore. Sometimes, as she picks up the notes, she perceives a slight warmth on the paper, as if they had been written moments before her arrival. The master has his ways, Dolores explains one morning as she serves her coffee with sweet bread. Ever since Mrs. Eleanor left us, he lives like a shadow within these walls. What happened to her? Amelia asks, unable to contain her curiosity. Dolores glances nervously towards the door before answering in a low voice. A sudden illness. No one knows exactly what it was. One day she was playing the piano as always, and the next, she was no longer with us. Was it she who played the piano that is now heard at night? The cup Dolores was holding crashes to the floor, breaking into pieces. You've heard the piano? When? Last night, shortly after midnight, Amelia admits, helping to pick up the ceramic fragments. It was a sad melody, like a Chopin nocturne. The nocturne in E-flat, Dolores murmurs, crossing herself. It was Mrs. Eleanor's favorite piece. The cook's face has paled. Don't follow the sound, child. Promise me. Amelia nods, though deep down she knows the promise will be difficult to keep. The music called to her last night like a magnet, and only the fear of disobeying the rules kept her in her room. That afternoon, while reorganizing a botany section, she finds a different book, hidden behind several volumes on orchids. It's a photo album bound in red leather. As she opens it, she gasps. The first image shows Theodore, younger and with a smile she has never seen, next to a beautiful woman with dark hair and luminous eyes. But what makes Amelia almost drop the album is the resemblance between herself and that woman. The same almond-shaped eyes, the same mouth, the same face shape. It's like looking in a mirror. She was very beautiful, wasn't she? Theodore's voice startles her. He is at the library door, observing her with an indecipherable expression. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have... Amelia stammers, trying to close the album. No, he stops her, approaching. It's all right. Somehow it seems right that you see it. Theodore sits next to her on the divan, taking the album with hands that Amelia notices are slightly trembling. The proximity between them makes her heart race. Eleanor was your age when I met her, he says, turning the pages with reverential care. She came from London to study enology. I had just inherited my father's vineyards. The photographs tell a love story. Theodore and Eleanor among the vines on the cobblestone streets of Bath, at the estate during different seasons. In all of them, happiness is palpable. The resemblance is, Amelia begins, not knowing how to continue. Unsettling, Theodore completes, looking directly into her eyes. When I first saw you in the library, I thought I was dreaming, or that my mind had finally succumbed to madness. There is an intensity in his gaze that makes Amelia feel warmth in her cheeks. For a moment, it seems Theodore is going to touch her face, but he stops, closing the album abruptly. You should continue with your work, Miss Valdez, he says, returning to a formal tone. And I would appreciate discretion about what you have seen. Before she can reply, he gets up and leaves the library, leaving her with more questions than answers. That night, the music returns. The nocturne in E-flat glides through the corridors like water between stones, seductive, irresistible. Amelia gets out of bed, unable to ignore it. Wrapped in her robe, she follows the sound that guides her to the west wing of the 3rd floor, the forbidden area. The hallway is plunged into gloom, barely illuminated by moonlight filtering through the windows. The music grows more intense as she approaches a door carved with bird and flower motifs. Amelia knows she shouldn't, but something stronger than her will pushes her to turn the golden knob. The door opens without a single creak, revealing a room that seems frozen in time. An elegant bedroom with Art Nouveau furniture, green silk curtains and a 4-poster bed. In one corner, a black grand piano gleams under the silver light entering through the windows. But no one is playing it. The keys move on their own, pressed by invisible hands. Amelia stifles a scream, backing away until she bumps into something. Turning around, she sees an easel covered with a white sheet. With trembling hands, she removes the cloth, revealing an oil portrait, Elena Montero, in a blue dress with a pearl choker around her neck, looking directly at the observer with a mixture of melancholy and defiance. It's like looking in a mirror across time. The music stops abruptly. The silence that follows is more terrifying than any sound. Amelia feels a sudden cold, as if someone had opened a window in the middle of winter. The jasmine perfume, which she had already noticed in other parts of the house, intensifies until it is almost suffocating. "You shouldn't be here." Theodore's voice startles her. He's at the door, his silhouette outlined against the darkness of the hallway. He doesn't seem angry but resigned, as if he had been expecting this moment to come. "The music," Amelia tries to explain, pointing to the now silent piano. "I know," he replies, entering the room. "I hear it every night. Sometimes I think I'm going mad." His eyes drift to the uncovered portrait. "I see you've found Eleanor." Amelia doesn't know what to say. The resemblance between her and the woman in the portrait is undeniable, disturbing. "Why did you hire me?" she asks finally. "Was it for this? Because of my resemblance to her?" Theodore approaches, and for the first time, Amelia notices how tired he seems, the deep lines furrowing his face, the invisible weight he seems to carry on his shoulders. "I saw your photograph in the application," he admits. "I almost discarded it, thinking it was some cruel joke. But then I read your story. Orphan, raised in a convent in North Carolina, expert in literature. It couldn't be a coincidence." "What do you want from me?" Amelia whispers, feeling a mixture of fear and something deeper, more primitive. Theodore moves closer until she can feel his breath. "I don't know," he replies honestly. "Perhaps an explanation. Perhaps redemption. Perhaps I just wanted to see Eleanor's ghost walk these halls again." There is pain in his voice, but also something else, a barely contained fire, a desire reflected in his eyes like flames in a mirror. "I should go," Amelia says, though she makes no move to leave. "You should," he agrees. "But we both know you won't." The space between them crackles with electricity. Amelia feels that something is about to break, to explode. The tension is almost unbearable. It is then that the full-length mirror on the other side of the room cracks with a shrill sound, like a cry of glass. Both startle, breaking the spell of the moment. "Go back to your room, Amelia," Theodore says, using her first name for the first time, "and lock the door." She nods, heading towards the exit. But before crossing the threshold, she stops. "Do you believe there are ghosts in this house, Mr. Montero?" Theodore looks at the silent piano, then at his wife's portrait, and finally at her. "I believe we are all haunted by something, Miss Valdez. The question is, are our ghosts haunting us, or are we the ones who cannot let them rest?" Amelia returns to her room with those words resonating in her mind. That night, she dreams of the piano playing by itself, of mirrors showing faces that are not hers, and of Theodore Montero whispering words in her ear in a language she doesn't understand, but which makes her blood burn. The next morning, she finds an old key on her pillow. She instinctively knows which door it belongs to, and she also knows that despite all warnings, she will use it again. During the following days, Amelia struggles between curiosity and fear. The key remains hidden at the bottom of her dresser drawer, like a silent promise, a constant temptation. In the mornings, she works in the library, cataloguing books and documents, and each time the door opens, her heart skips a beat, expecting to see Theodore. But he seems to avoid her. Instructions continue to appear on the desk each morning, but there are no more casual encounters, no whispered conversations between shelves of ancient books. One afternoon, while cataloguing a collection of 19th century letters, Rosalind enters the library with a package wrapped in tissue paper. "The master wants you to wear this tonight," she says, placing the package on the desk. Her expression is even more severe than usual, almost worried. "There will be a small dinner in the main dining room. Just the two of you." Amelia unwraps the package with trembling fingers, revealing a sapphire blue silk dress, elegant and classically cut. Beside it there is a pearl choker. "It's identical to the one in the portrait," she murmurs, immediately recognizing the outfit Eleanor wore in the oil painting. Rosalind nods, her dark eyes filled with unease. "Be careful, child. Not all that glitters in this house is gold, And not all attention is well-intentioned. Before Amelia can ask more, the housekeeper leaves the library, leaving her with the dress in her hands and a knot in her throat. At 8 o'clock, Amelia descends the stairs to the main dining room. The dress fits her perfectly, as if it had been made for her. The pearl choker encircles her neck with a cold, elegant weight. She has gathered her hair into a loose bun, letting some strands frame her face, just like Eleanor in the portrait. The main dining room is an imposing room, with a mahogany table that could seat 20 people, silver candelabras, and a fresco on the ceiling depicting scenes of the grape harvest. Tonight, only 2 places are set at one end of the table, illuminated by candles and decorated with fresh jasmine flowers. Theodore is already there, standing by the window, looking out at the vineyards bathed in moonlight. He wears a black suit that accentuates the breadth of his shoulders and the aristocratic bearing that, despite his years, remains imposing. Hearing Amelia's footsteps, he turns slowly. For an instant, his face reflects an emotion so raw, so visceral, that Amelia can almost feel the physical impact of his gaze. It is desire, it is pain, it is astonishment, all mixed in an expression that leaves her breathless. "You are perfect," he says finally, approaching to pull out her chair and invite her to sit. "Thank you for the dress," she replies, aware of the slight tremor in her voice. "Though I must admit the reason for this dinner intrigues me." Theodore sits opposite her, pouring red wine into 2 cut crystal glasses. "It's from our best vintage," he explains. "From the year Eleanor and I were married." Amelia takes a sip. The wine is complex, with notes of black cherry, leather, and something deeper, almost earthy. "It's extraordinary." "Like you," he replies, looking at her over the rim of his glass. Dinner proceeds with exquisite dishes prepared by Dolores, pumpkin soup with truffle, confit duck with red wine reduction, and a bitter chocolate dessert with fresh raspberries. Conversation flows surprisingly easily, as if they were old friends reuniting. They talk about literature, music, the vineyards and their histories, but beneath the surface of this apparent normalcy, both feel the undercurrent of something more intense, more dangerous. Each time their gazes meet, the air between them seems to crackle with electricity. Their fingers brush as they pass the bread, and the contact, though fleeting, sends waves of warmth through their bodies. "Why did you choose me?" Amelia asks finally, when dessert has been cleared and only the wine remains between them. "Among all possible candidates to organize your library, why an orphan from a convent in the Scottish Highlands?" Theodore observes her in silence for a moment, as if deciding how much to reveal. "A year ago," he begins finally, "I received a letter from the convent of the Sisters of Mercy. The Mother Superior wrote to me about a young woman who had grown up there, a young woman who, she said, I should know. She included a photograph." Amelia feels her heart quicken. "The Mother Superior wrote to you about me. Why?" "She said it was a matter of justice and closure, that the time had come for certain truths to come to light." Theodore swirls the glass between his fingers, watching the candlelight dance in the ruby liquid. "At first I thought of ignoring the letter. Then I saw your photograph." "And you saw Eleanor," Amelia completes, feeling a strange mix of disappointment and curiosity. "I saw more than that," he replies, his voice barely a whisper. "I saw possibilities, questions that might have answers, wounds that might heal." He stands abruptly, circling the table to approach her. Amelia holds her breath as he leans in, his face now inches from hers. "There are secrets in this house, Amelia, secrets that have been buried too long. Perhaps your arrival is the beginning of the end of this silence." Before she can reply, the candlelight flickers violently, as if shaken by a gust of wind, though no window is open. One of the crystal glasses spontaneously cracks, spilling red wine onto the white tablecloth like an open wound. Theodore recoils, his face suddenly pale. "You should retire now." "What's happening here?" Amelia insists, standing up. "What aren't you telling me?" For an instant it seems Theodore is about to yield, to reveal everything, but then his expression hardens, returning to the impenetrable mask he usually shows the world. "Good night, Miss Valdez." Amelia returns to her room with her mind boiling with questions and her body vibrating with emotions she cannot name. She removes the blue dress and the pearl choker, leaving them on the bed like the discarded skin of a snake. It is then that she notices it. a white envelope that has fallen from the dress. Inside is a different key from the one she already possessed, older, made of wrought iron with intricate designs, and a note written in Theodore's familiar calligraphy, "Underground cellar, midnight, some answers await." The clock strikes 11:30. Amelia dresses in a simple cotton dress and a shawl over her shoulders. She hesitates for an instant before taking the key and stepping into the silent hallway. The estate sleeps or pretends to. Her footsteps are muffled by the corridor carpet. Following her intuition, she heads towards the kitchen and from there finds a narrow door leading to a spiral stone staircase, descending into darkness. The key fits perfectly into the lock of a heavy oak door at the bottom of the stairs. As she opens it, the scent of damp earth, oak wood, and aged wine envelops her. The cellar is a spacious area, with stone vaults and rows of barrels lined up like silent soldiers in the gloom. Lit oil lamps illuminate the path between the barrels, creating a golden trail in the dimness. At the end of the trail, Theodore awaits her beside an old wooden table where an uncorked bottle and 2 glasses rest. "I was beginning to think you wouldn't come," he says, his voice echoing in the cellar's acoustics. "I almost didn't," Amelia admits, approaching slowly, "but I need answers." Theodore nods, pouring wine into the glasses. "This one is different from the dinner wine, darker, almost black in the lamplight. This wine is special," he explains, "from a vintage produced the year you were born." Amelia takes the glass but doesn't drink. "How do you know exactly when I was born?" "Because I was there," Theodore replies, his grey eyes fixed on her. "I was present the day you came into the world, Amelia, in this very place." The impact of his words is like a physical blow. Amelia feels her legs give way, and she has to lean on the table to keep from falling. "What are you saying?" she whispers, though a part of her already knows, has already begun to piece together this impossible puzzle. "Your mother gave birth here, at this estate," Theodore continues, his voice laden with emotions contained for years. "Her name was Marisol Valdez, and she worked for us as a music teacher. She was beautiful, talented, and alone in the world. And my father?" Amelia asks, though she fears the answer. Theodore takes a long drink of his wine before replying. "Your father was me, Amelia." The silence that follows is absolute, as if the entire cellar held its breath. Amelia feels the world crumble and recompose around her, that every memory, every dream, every inexplicable sensation since her arrival at the estate takes on a new and terrible meaning. "No," she denies, shaking her head. "It's impossible. You were married to Eleanor. You're lying to me." "I wish it was so," he replies bitterly. "It would be easier for both of us. But it's the truth. Eleanor and I had been married for 3 years, unable to have children. She fell into a deep depression. I took refuge in work and in Marisol. Did you fall in love with her?" The question comes out as a thread of voice. "I thought I did," Theodore admits. "But what I felt for Marisol wasn't comparable to what I felt for Eleanor. It was something different. An escape, perhaps. A comfort in the midst of the storm." "And what happened when you found out she was pregnant?" Theodore closes his eyes as if the memory is too painful. "At first I thought of leaving Eleanor, of taking responsibility for you and Marisol. But then Eleanor discovered everything. The night she found out," his voice breaks, Amelia watches as this strong, imposing man crumbles before her eyes. "Eleanor threatened to take her own life," he finally continues. "She said she couldn't bear the humiliation, the abandonment. She made me promise I would never leave her, that I would never acknowledge that child as mine. And I gave in. And my mother? What happened to her? Eleanor offered her a considerable sum to disappear, to give you to the convent and never return. Marisol refused at first, but then what?" Amelia presses, feeling each word as a knife sinking deeper into her soul. "Then she fell ill gravely. The doctors said it was a complication from childbirth, but I was never sure. In her last days, she accepted Eleanor's deal. You would be taken to the convent, where you would receive education and care. In return, you would never know who your father was." Theodore approaches, trying to take her hands, but Amelia recoils. "For years, I sent money to the convent for your upkeep. I followed your progress through the Mother Superior's letters. I wanted to look for you so many times, but you didn't," Amelia replies, anger finally breaking through the shock. "You abandoned me. You denied me. Eleanor held me captive with her fragility, with her dependence, and afterwards, when she finally passed, I was trapped in guilt. A solitary tear runs down Theodore's face, shining in the lamplight. Now I understand why I resemble her so much, Amelia murmurs. It's not coincidence nor destiny. It's genetics. Eleanor was my stepmother. Your arrival at this house is no accident, Theodore admits. The Mother Superior wrote to me when you turned 21, telling me it was time to face my responsibility, to tell you the truth. And when I saw your photograph, when I saw how much you resemble, my mother, Amelia completes. I resemble Marisol, not Eleanor. Theodore nods slowly. Marisol had the same type of beauty as Eleanor. That's why I was attracted to her in the first place. A terrible irony. Amelia feels the cellar walls closing in around her. Everything she had believed in, everything she thought about herself crumbles like a house of cards. She is the daughter of the man who, since her arrival at the estate, has provoked feelings in her that she now recognizes with horror. I need to go, she says, backing towards the door. I can't be here. Amelia, please, Theodore pleads, moving towards her. There's more you need to know. But she is already running up the stairs, fleeing from the truth, from him, from the forbidden feelings that now take on an even more terrible dimension. Amelia spends the night awake, pacing her room like a caged animal. Every memory, every sensation since her arrival at the estate twists and takes on new meaning under the light of the revelation. The attraction she felt towards Theodore from the first moment now churns her stomach. The coincidences, the premonitory dreams, the resemblance to Eleanor, no to Marisol, everything takes on a macabre meaning that torments her. At dawn, she makes a decision. She packs her few belongings in the same suitcase she arrived with and heads for the main door before the rest of the house awakens. But there, blocking her exit, she finds Rosalind. "Where do you think you're going, miss?" the housekeeper asks, her arms crossed and her gaze impenetrable. "I'm leaving," Amelia replies, lifting her chin in a defiant gesture. "I cannot stay another minute in this house." "And where will you go? Back to the convent? To the city, alone, without money, without connections?" The practicality of the questions hits Amelia hard. She has no plan, only the desperate urge to escape. "Anywhere is better than here," she replies. Though her voice lacks the conviction she tries to project, Rosalind sighs, softening her expression slightly. "Mr. Theodore told me everything last night. I know who you really are." "You knew from the beginning?" Amelia asks, feeling a new wave of betrayal. "No," Rosalind replies honestly. "I suspected there was some connection, because of the resemblance. But I didn't know you were Marisol's and Mr. Theodore's daughter until yesterday." Marisol's name on Rosalind's lips makes something stir in Amelia's chest. "You knew my mother?" Rosalind nods, and for the first time since Amelia has known her, she sees real emotion in her eyes. "I myself assisted her in childbirth. It was I who held you for the first time before you were taken away." Amelia feels her legs give way. She drops the suitcase and leans against the wall. Rosalind approaches, gently taking her arm to guide her to a nearby bench. "Marisol was an extraordinary woman," Rosalind continues. "She played the piano like angels. She had a laugh that filled the entire estate. She came here to give music lessons to Mrs. Eleanor, but soon became her confidant, her friend. And then she betrayed her with my father," Amelia says bitterly. "Things are never that simple, child," Rosalind replies. "Mrs. Eleanor couldn't have children, and that consumed her. She became distant, melancholic. Mr. Theodore felt helpless in the face of her suffering. And Marisol was the sun after the storm. Are you justifying what they did?" "No. I'm just showing you that in this story there are no pure villains, only people who made mistakes and paid for them. Your mother paid the highest price." "Did she really die from childbirth complications?" Amelia asks, giving voice to the suspicion that had tormented her since last night. Rosalind hesitates, as if carefully weighing her words. "The doctor said so. But there were rumors. Mrs. Eleanor had knowledge of herbs and traditional remedies. Some whispered she might have poisoned my mother." Amelia feels the air leave her lungs. "Nothing was ever proven," Rosalind replies quickly, "and Mrs. Eleanor was not a violent person. But pain and jealousy can transform even the noblest soul." Amelia closes her eyes, feeling each new revelation as a stab. "And now what? What does Theodore expect from me? Why did he bring me here after all these years?" I think you should ask him that directly, Rosalind replies, standing up. He's in the jasmine garden, where he always goes when he needs to think. Amelia hesitates. A part of her still wants to flee, to leave this place and its poisonous secrets behind. But another part, deeper, needs answers, needs to fully understand the puzzle of her origin. I'll have breakfast prepared for you, Rosalind says, interpreting her silence as acceptance. You'll need strength for the conversation that awaits you. The jasmine garden is at the back of the estate, a circular space surrounded by a dark wooden pergola over which the flowering plants climb. In the center is a quarry stone fountain with the figure of a woman pouring water from a pitcher. The aroma is intense, almost intoxicating in the morning freshness. Theodore is sitting on a stone bench, looking at the fountain with an absent expression. Seeing Amelia, his face reflects surprise and relief. I thought you would have left, he says, standing up. I tried, she admits, keeping her distance. But it seems this house won't let me go so easily. Theodore nods as if he understands perfectly. It has that quality. It traps souls. Rosalind says she knew my mother, Amelia begins, deciding to get straight to the point. She says she died under suspicious circumstances. Theodore's face pales. He slowly sits back down as if his legs can no longer support him. For years I refused to consider it, he finally replies. The idea that Eleanor could have... No, I couldn't accept it. Marisol was like a sister to her before everything changed. And now? What do you believe now? Now I believe we were all pawns in a game larger than ourselves. Theodore points to the empty space on the bench beside him, inviting her to sit. Amelia hesitates, but finally agrees, maintaining a prudent distance between them. This garden was designed by Eleanor, he explains, but jasmine was Marisol's favorite flower. Eleanor planted them after her departure, as a secret memorial. She would come here every night talking to the flowers as if they could hear her. What did she talk about? Of regret, mainly, of guilt. Sometimes I would hear her from our bedroom window, pleading for forgiveness from someone who could no longer grant it. Amelia feels a shiver. Do you think she... I don't know for sure, Theodore replies, rubbing his hands as if trying to clean an invisible stain. But in her last days, when fever consumed her, she confessed things. She spoke of an herbal tea she prepared for Marisol after childbirth, to strengthen her. She said she only wanted to scare her, to make her suffer a little. But something went wrong. The silence that follows is heavy, laden with terrible implications. And you still stayed with her? Amelia asks, unable to hide her disbelief and horror. I stayed for you, Theodore replies, his eyes now fixed on hers. Eleanor swore that if I left her, she would ensure you could never be found. She had connections, influence. And I had already failed you as a father. I couldn't risk failing you in this too. The pieces begin to fit together in Amelia's mind, forming a mosaic of sacrifice, guilt, and buried secrets. When Eleanor passed, Theodore continues, she left a letter. In it, she confessed everything and released me from our promise. She asked me to find you, to bring you home, to try to repair the damage we had both caused. Why did you wait so long? The question comes out as an accusation. Fear, Theodore admits simply. Fear that you would hate me. Fear that I wasn't worthy of being your father. And also, he hesitates as if the next words are too difficult to utter. Also what? I also felt there was something strange about Eleanor's letter, about her sudden generosity from beyond, as if it were a trap, as if she had planned something I still don't fully understand. Amelia thinks of the piano music playing by itself, of the mirrors cracking, of the jasmine perfume appearing and disappearing. You believe her spirit is still here, she says, not as a question but as a statement. Theodore nods slowly. This house has always had peculiarities, but after Eleanor's passing, everything intensified, as if her will, her presence had become imbued in the walls, in the objects, in the very air. And you brought me here knowing this. Did you deliberately put me in danger? I brought you because I thought you might be the key to freeing this house, and myself, from whatever keeps us trapped. Eleanor always said that if she ever had a daughter, she would name her Amelia after her grandmother. When I learned that Marisol had given you that same name... It was a coincidence, Amelia interrupts. I don't believe in coincidences, not after everything I've seen, Theodore replies. There are patterns in our lives, invisible threads that connect us across time and space. He stands and walks towards the fountain, running his fingers through the crystal water. "There's more about your origin you need to know," he says, his voice barely audible over the murmur of the water. Amelia feels her heart race. What else could there be? So Marisol wasn't just a music teacher, Theodore begins, still with his back to her. She came from a long line of healers from Liverpool. Her grandmother was known for her special gifts. She could communicate with those who are no longer. She could see the future in dreams. "Are you saying my mother was some kind of witch?" Amelia asks, half skeptical, half fascinated. "I'm saying there was more to her than met the eye," Theodore replies, turning to look at her. "And there's more to you, too. Haven't you ever wondered why you have dreams that come true, why you feel things others can't feel?" Amelia thinks of the recurring dreams about the estate, of how she knew exactly where to find the cellar last night, of the strange familiarity she felt upon arriving. The night before, she passed, Theodore continues, carefully choosing his words. Marisol made a prediction. She said her daughter would one day return to this house, and that her presence would awaken what sleeps. She said only you could break the cycle, free the trapped souls. What souls? What cycle are you talking about? Theodore sits beside her again, and this time Amelia does not pull away when he takes her hands in his. His palms are warm, slightly rough, the hands of a man who, despite his wealth, is not afraid of hard work. This land has history, Amelia. Before the Monteros built this estate, there were other families, other tragedies, always the same pattern. Love triangles, betrayals, violent endings. Eleanor investigated it obsessively during our last years together. She was convinced that the land itself was cursed or blessed, depending on how you look at it. That there was an ancient power here that fed on passion and pain. Sounds like superstition, Amelia says, though she cannot deny the shiver that runs down her spine. I believed it too, Theodore replies with a sad smile, until I started seeing Eleanor after she passed, hearing the piano playing by itself, feeling her presence in every corner of this house. His eyes, fixed on Amelia's, reflect a mixture of fear and hope. You are here for a reason, Amelia. Not just to know the truth about your origin, but to complete something that began long before any of us were born. Before Amelia can reply, a crystalline sound fills the air, the same notes of the nocturne in E-flat she has heard at night, but now in broad daylight. The piano, she murmurs, standing up. Do you hear it? Theodore nods, his face suddenly tense. It is never played during the day. Something has changed. They look at each other, united by a moment of mutual understanding that transcends painful revelations, secrets and lies. I have to see something, Amelia says suddenly, remembering the key she still keeps in her dress pocket. In the third-floor room. Let's go together, Theodore replies, and this time there is nothing inappropriate in their closeness. It is the closeness of a father and daughter facing together a mystery that has defined and separated them for too long. The third-floor room is flooded with golden light when Amelia and Theodore enter. The black piano gleams, its keys moving on their own, performing the nocturne with supernatural precision. The melody is more intense than ever, almost physical in its presence, as if the notes had weight and texture. Always the same piece, Theodore murmurs, advancing towards the instrument with caution. It was Eleanor's favorite. Also my mother's, Amelia replies, remembering something Rosalind had told her during breakfast. Rosalind said Marisol was the one who taught Eleanor to play it. They stop a few steps from the piano. The keys continue to move, but now they perceive something else. A translucent silhouette, barely visible, sitting on the bench. For a fleeting instant, Amelia thinks she distinguishes a woman's hands on the keyboard. Eleanor, Theodore whispers, his voice broken by emotion. The music stops abruptly. The silence that follows is dense, charged with anticipation. The air suddenly turns cold, and the jasmine perfume intensifies until it is almost dizzying. It's not her, Amelia says, feeling an inexplicable certainty. It's my mother. As if responding to her words, the full-length mirror on the opposite wall begins to fog, as if someone is breathing on its surface. Slowly a word forms in the condensation. Marisol. Impossible, Theodore murmurs, approaching the mirror with trembling steps. Marisol was never in this room. Eleanor wouldn't allow it. Amelia feels a sudden impulse. She takes out the small music box she has always carried with her, the one she's had for as long as she can remember. She opens it, and a simple, sweet melody begins to play, a lullaby. The effect is immediate. The curtains wave as if moved by a non-existent wind. The objects in the room vibrate slightly. And in the mirror, more words appear below the name. Listen to my voice. What's happening? Theodore asks, backing towards Amelia. I think she's trying to communicate, she replies, advancing towards the mirror. I think she's always been trying, through my dreams, through the music. She places the music box on the dresser and puts her hand on the fogged mirror. The cold of the glass penetrates her skin like an electric current. She closes her eyes, letting herself be guided by an intuition she didn't know she possessed. I'm here, Mother, she whispers. I hear you. A blinding flash illuminates the room. When Amelia opens her eyes, she is no longer on the third floor of Montero Estate. She is in a younger, wilder jasmine garden than the current one. And in front of her is a woman of incredible beauty. With her same eyes, her same mouth, her same dark hair, Marisol, she murmurs. Instinctively recognizing her mother, the woman smiles with a mixture of sadness and infinite love. My little Amelia, how is this possible? Am I dreaming? You are between worlds, Marisol replies. Her voice is musical with a slight Liverpool accent. This place exists in the folds of time, in the spaces between one heartbeat and another. Here I have been waiting for you. Why couldn't I see you before? Why now? Because now you know the truth, and the truth opens doors that were once closed. Marisol takes Amelia's hands in hers. They are warm, full of life, not like a ghost's hands. There is so much I must tell you and so little time. Was it Eleanor? Amelia asks directly. Did she? Marisol nods slowly. She prepared a tea with herbs she knew well. She didn't intend for it to be fatal. She just wanted to scare me, to make me suffer. But the doses, they were stronger than she planned. And when she realized what she had done, it was already too late. And that's why her spirit doesn't find rest? Because of guilt. Eleanor is trapped, yes, but not just because of what she did to me, Marisol replies. She is trapped by an older cycle, a curse that has affected this land for centuries. Marisol guides Amelia to a stone bench identical to the one in the current garden. As they sit, the landscape subtly changes. The sky darkens. The flowers wilt and bloom again, as if time is moving forward and backward around them. This place that is now Montero Estate was sacred to the indigenous peoples, Marisol explains. A place where the veil between worlds was especially thin. They built a temple here, dedicated to a deity of love and death. When the conquerors arrived, they destroyed the temple and built a chapel. But the power of the place remained. What power? A power that feeds on tragic love stories, on love triangles, on passion and pain. Marisol looks towards the jasmine, which now shines with a supernatural glow. Every generation, the story repeats itself. An established couple. A third element that destabilizes everything. Betrayal and finally tragedy. Amelia thinks of Theodore, Eleanor and Marisol recognizing the pattern. And me? What is my role in all this? You are the first daughter born of this cycle who has survived and returned, Marisol replies, her eyes shining with intensity. You are the only one who can break it. How? You must complete what I could not. Find the sacred objects that were buried beneath the estate when the original temple was destroyed. Only together can they contain and direct the power of this place. What objects? An obsidian cup, a polished silver mirror, and a jade dagger. Marisol squeezes Amelia's hands. They are hidden in 3 different places. One beneath the jasmine garden, another in the depths of the cellar, and the third... Her voice fades as the garden around her begins to blur, like a painting in the rain. Don't go, Amelia pleads, trying to cling to her mother's hands. There's so much I want to ask you, so much I need to know. Look for the diary, Marisol manages to say as her image becomes increasingly translucent. My diary. I hid it where only you could find it. Remember, blood calls to blood. The cycle must be broken before the next full moon, or we will all be trapped forever. Mother, Amelia cries, but it is too late. The garden completely disappears, and she finds herself back in the 3rd-floor room, kneeling in front of the mirror with Theodore beside her, holding her shoulders. What happened? He asks, his face pale with worry. You suddenly collapsed. You were unconscious for almost 5 minutes. I saw her, Amelia replies, her voice barely a whisper. I saw my mother. She spoke to me. She tells him everything. The ancestral curse, the sacred objects, the cycle that must be broken. As she speaks, she watches Theodore's face change from initial disbelief to reluctant acceptance. Eleanor spoke of something similar in her last days, he finally admits. She had been researching the history of this land, obsessed with patterns she claimed to see in previous tragedies. I thought it was the fever talking. It wasn't, Amelia affirms, standing up. Her body feels different, as if something has awakened within her, an ancient force that had remained dormant until now. We need to find Marisol's diary. Where could it be? She said she hid it where only I could find it. Amelia closes her eyes, trying to concentrate on the sensation she had experienced in her mother's presence. And she mentioned that blood calls to blood. Her eyes open wide. The music box. It has always been with me since the convent. The sisters said it came with me when I was left there. She picks up the small box and examines it with new eyes. It is made of carved wood, with mother-of-pearl inlays forming jasmine flowers. Turning it, she notices something she had never seen before, a small dark stain on the base, like a drop of dried blood. She said blood calls to blood, she repeats, pressing her thumb against the stain. For an instant, nothing happens. Then a barely audible click, and a secret compartment opens in the base of the box. Inside is a tiny key and a folded paper with a single word written, piano. The piano in this room, Theodore says, looking at the instrument that now remains silent. Amelia approaches, looking for some kind of lock where the tiny key could fit. There is nothing visible on the polished surface of the instrument. Then she remembers something Dolores mentioned. Eleanor kept her most intimate secrets in the piano's hidden compartment. "Help me move it," she asks Theodore. Between the two, they manage to shift the heavy instrument a few inches from the wall. There at the back, near the strings of the lowest register, is a small door disguised in the wood. The key fits perfectly. The compartment contains a small worn brown leather book. On the first page, a dedication written in now faded ink. "For my daughter Amelia, so that she may know the truth and break the cycle. With all my love, Marisol." Amelia's hands tremble as she turns the pages. The diary is written in elegant flowing script, detailing Marisol's arrival at the estate, her initial friendship with Eleanor, the piano lessons, and then, gradually, the development of her feelings for Theodore. "I never wanted to fall in love with him," Amelia reads aloud. "I knew it was forbidden, that he was my friend's husband, my patron's, but there are forces older than our will at work in this place. Sometimes I feel we are nothing more than actors in a play that has been performed many times before." Theodore listens in silence, his face a mask of contained pain and regret. As Amelia progresses through the reading, they discover that Marisol had begun to investigate the history of the estate on her own, consulting with an old woman in the village who knew the ancient legends. She had discovered the existence of the 3 sacred objects and their ability to channel and contain the power of the place. "Eleanor found my notes," Amelia reads, reaching the final entries. "She is furious but also scared. She says we can break the curse together, that it's not too late. I don't trust her, but I have no choice. The baby will be born soon, and I fear for its future if this cycle continues." The last entry is dated the day of Amelia's birth. "My daughter has come into the world today. I have named her Amelia, as was written in the prophecies I found in the village archives. Eleanor has prepared a tea for my recovery. I suspect her intentions, but I must drink it to buy time. I have hidden this diary where only my blood will be able to find it, and I have drawn a map for the sacred objects." "Where is the map?" Theodore asks, looking over Amelia's shoulder. She turns the last page and finds a folded sheet sewn to the back cover. Unfolding it, she reveals a detailed map of the estate and its grounds, with 3 locations marked: the center of the jasmine garden, a specific point in the cellar near a barrel marked with Amelia's birth year, and a third place that makes both of them hold their breath: Eleanor's tomb. "The third object is with her," Theodore murmurs. "Paling? We have to retrieve them all," Amelia replies with determination. "Before the next full moon." She checks the small calendar on her wristwatch. It's in 3 days. They look at each other, united now by a common purpose that transcends the wounds of the past. Father and daughter, heirs of a tragic history, but also of the possibility of redemption. "We'll start with the garden," Amelia decides, putting the diary in her dress pocket. "Tonight, when everyone is asleep." As they leave the room, neither of them notices that the last note of the nocturne in E-flat plays softly on the piano, like a sigh of hope in the quiet of the afternoon. Night falls over Montero Estate like a velvet blue cloak dappled with stars. Amelia waits in her room, watching from the window as the lights of the house go out one by one. At midnight, when the silence is absolute, she stealthily slips into the hallway with a small flashlight, her mother's diary, and a shovel that Theodore left for her by her door. The jasmine garden is bathed in the silvery light of the waxing moon, almost full. The white flowers seem to glow with their own light, creating a luminous path to the center of the garden, where the fountain of the woman with the pitcher stands. Theodore is already there, carefully removing the stone slabs surrounding the base. According to the map, it should be exactly under the center of the fountain, he whispers, helping Amelia down the steps leading to the garden. They work in silence methodically, removing stone after stone until they uncover damp, dark earth. Theodore begins to dig, while Amelia illuminates the area with the flashlight. The only sound is that of the shovel sinking into the earth and the constant murmur of the fountain's water. After about 20 minutes of effort, the shovel hits something solid with a metallic sound. Theodore kneels, brushing away the earth with his hands until he reveals a greenish metal box, covered in engravings that seem to depict intertwined vines. It's sealed, he observes, trying to open it without success. Amelia remembers her mother's words, blood calls to blood. Without hesitation, she takes a small knife she had brought with her and makes a small cut on the tip of her index finger. A drop of crimson blood falls onto the box. The effect is immediate. The engravings seem to move, the vines twisting as if coming to life, and the lid snaps open. Inside, on a bed of black velvet, rests a cup carved from pure obsidian. The black shiny surface reflects Amelia's face in a distorted way, as if looking through turbulent waters. "It's beautiful," she murmurs, taking it carefully. The object is surprisingly light for its size, and to the touch, it transmits a sensation of warmth that contrasts with the coldness of the night. As she lifts it to the moonlight, they notice inscriptions engraved around the rim in a language neither recognizes, but which Amelia feels she could understand if she concentrated enough. The diary mentions that this cup was used in ceremonies to communicate with ancestors, she says, recalling her afternoon readings. It was the vessel that contained the essence of spirits. A movement in the bushes startles them. Both turn tense, but it is only Rosalind who emerges from the shadows, her face solemn in the moonlight. "I knew you would come," she says, approaching slowly. "I've felt the change in the air since all this began." "How long have you known?" Theodore asks, standing up with effort. "I've always known," the old woman replies, her eyes fixed on the cup Amelia holds. "My grandmother served in this house, and her grandmother before her. The women of my family have been guardians of this place's secrets for generations." "Why didn't you say anything before?" Amelia asks, feeling a mix of awe and slight betrayal. "It wasn't time," Rosalind replies simply. "Everything has its time under the sun, and yours, child, has just begun." She looks up at the sky, where the moon shines ever closer to its fullness. "But you must hurry. There is little time left and 2 more objects. Can you help us?" Theodore asks. Rosalind shakes her head. "My role is different. I must prepare the house for what comes next. But I will tell you this. The silver mirror in the cellar is protected by a guardian. It is not a being of flesh and blood, but something older." "What kind of guardian?" Amelia asks, feeling a shiver run down her spine. "One that feeds on fear," Rosalind replies. "You must not show fear or it will consume you." With these enigmatic words, the old woman bids them farewell with a nod and returns to the house, her figure disappearing into the shadows as if she were a part of them. "Do you trust her?" Amelia asks as they cover the hole and replace the stones. "With my life," Theodore replies without hesitation. "Rosalind has been with the family since before I was born. She knows this estate better than anyone alive." Carefully placing the cup in a leather bag Theodore has brought, they head towards the cellar entrance. The night has grown colder, and a light wind stirs the leaves of the trees, creating whispers that seem to form words at the edge of hearing. The cellar is plunged into almost absolute darkness as they descend the stone staircase. Their flashlights cast circles of light that barely pierce the gloom, illuminating the rows of barrels that stretch like silent sentinels in the dimness. Following the map in the diary, they head towards the oldest section of the cellar, where special vintages rest, those reserved for significant occasions in the family's history. They find the barrel marked with Amelia's birth year, placed on a stone pedestal carved in a spiral shape. According to the map, the mirror is under this pedestal, Amelia says, examining the heavy stone structure. But I don't see how to move it without toppling the barrel. Theodore studies the pedestal with a critical eye, running his fingers over the spiral engravings. These are not just decorative, he murmurs. I think it's a mechanism. Following his intuition, he presses certain points of the spiral in a sequence that seems to follow the natural flow of the design. A metallic click resounds in the stillness of the cellar, and the front part of the pedestal slides to one side, revealing a hidden compartment. Inside is a small chest, no larger than a book, made of petrified wood with silver inlays. Unlike the box in the garden, this one has no visible lock. Blood calls to blood, Amelia recites, repeating the ritual with her already wounded finger, letting a drop of blood fall onto the chest's lid. Nothing happens. Perhaps, Theodore begins, and before she can stop him, he takes a knife from his pocket and makes a small cut on his own palm. If both of us, when their bloods mix on the surface of the chest, father and daughter, the wood seems to absorb the liquid like thirsty earth. A flash of light emanates from the silver inlays, and the lid slowly opens. The polished silver mirror lying inside is the size of a hand, with an ornate handle depicting intertwined serpents. Its surface, despite the centuries, reflects their faces with a supernatural clarity. But looking more closely, Amelia notes with horror that the reflections are not exact. In the mirror, Theodore's face shows an expression of malice that does not correspond with reality, and her own reflection seems consumed by fear. Don't look directly, she warns, remembering Rosalind's words. It shows our fears, it tries to feed on them. Theodore quickly looks away, but not before glimpsing something that makes him pale. I saw Eleanor, he whispers. She was behind you, with her hands on your throat. A shiver runs down Amelia's spine. The air in the cellar has suddenly turned icy, and their breath forms small clouds as they exhale. The flames of the oil lamps tremble, casting dancing shadows that seem to have a life of their own. Don't show fear, Amelia reminds herself, though her heart pounds wildly in her chest. It feeds on fear. The shadow takes shape in front of them, a feminine figure made of darkness and fog, with features fluctuating between those of Eleanor and those of an older, primitive woman, terrible in her supernatural beauty. Her mouth opens in a silent scream that seems to absorb the light around her. Theodore instinctively takes a step back, but Amelia stands firm. She takes the obsidian cup from the bag and raises it in front of her like a shield. We do not fear you, she declares in a clear, firm voice. We know your nature and your purpose. The figure stops, undulating like smoke trapped in an invisible current. Its eyes, empty and ancient, fix on Amelia with a mixture of curiosity and rage. Marisol, the figure whispers in a voice that seems to come from the bottom of a well. But you are not her. I am her daughter, Amelia replies, holding the cup high, and we have come to break the cycle. Eleanor's laughter rings out like shattering glass. Break the cycle? Naive child. The cycle does not break, it only transforms, and now that you are here, it can finally be completed. With a fluid movement, Eleanor's spectral figure moves to float in front of Amelia, studying her with a gaze that seems to pierce through her. You are so much like her, like Marisol. The same defiant look, the same ignorance about the forces you play with. I know more than you think, Amelia replies, holding the spectre's gaze. I know what you did to my mother. I know why you are trapped here. Eleanor's expression hardens and the temperature drops further. You think I'm trapped? You think I didn't choose this? Her form expands, filling the mausoleum with a bluish, icy mist. I am the guardian now, the one who maintains balance, the one who preserves the cycle. At what cost, Eleanor? Theodore intervenes, stepping forward to stand beside Amelia. At the cost of your peace? Of your eternal rest. For an instant, something seems to break in the spectre's expression. A vulnerability, a glimpse of the woman she was before tragedy and obsession consumed her. It was the only way, she whispers, her voice suddenly filled with sadness. The only way to keep him safe, to keep everyone safe. Safe from what? Amelia asks, feeling they are reaching the core of the truth. Eleanor floats towards the circular stained glass window, where the last rays of the setting sun create patterns of light and shadow on the marble floor. From what sleeps beneath the estate, from what has been lurking since long before any of us were born. The priestess, Amelia murmurs, remembering the shadow they faced in the cellar. The first guardian. Eleanor turns, surprised. You've seen her. In the cellar when we retrieved the mirror, Amelia explains, taking the object from the bag to show it. Seeing the mirror, Eleanor recoils as if struck. Her form trembles, becoming momentarily more translucent. The mirror reveals the truth, she says in a shaky voice. The truth I tried to hide for so long. What truth, Eleanor? Theodore asks, his voice soft but insistent. The spectre stabilizes, regaining some of its composure. The truth about this place, about the curse that afflicts it. It's not just a cycle of love and betrayal, Theodore. It's much older, more terrible. Eleanor floats back to the sarcophagus where her physical body continues to hold the jade dagger. Centuries ago, this place was the scene of a sacrifice. A priestess fell in love with a warrior who was promised to another. In her desperation, she made a pact with forces she didn't fully understand. She sacrificed her rival with this very dagger. She points to the object in her corpse's hands, drank her blood in that obsidian cup, and saw her future in that silver mirror. What did she see? Amelia asks, though part of her already suspects the answer. She saw that her beloved would never love her, that his heart would always belong to the sacrificed woman. In her fury and despair, she took her own life, cursing this land so that the story would repeat eternally. A triangle of love, betrayal, and tragedy that would never find resolution. And you discovered all this, Theodore deduces, the pieces finally clicking into place in his mind. During your investigations into the estate. Eleanor nods, her form glowing more intensely as darkness deepens in the mausoleum. I discovered it too late, when we were already caught in the pattern, when you had already fallen in love with Marisol, when she was already expecting your daughter. She turns to Amelia, and for the first time, there is something akin to a plea in her spectral eyes. It was not my intention for her to pass. I only wanted to scare her, to drive her away from us. But the cycle demanded its sacrifice, and I became its instrument without knowing it. And afterwards? Amelia asks, feeling a strange compassion for this woman she had hated for so long. Afterwards, I understood what I had done, the role I had played in this ancestral tragedy, and I decided to break the cycle in my own way. Eleanor floats towards her body, caressing the serene face of the corpse with ethereal fingers. I took the dagger with me to the other side, so that no one else could use it. I hid the cup and the mirror, and I became the new guardian, holding back the forces that had been awakened. But it didn't work, Amelia says softly. The cycle continues. Your spirit is still trapped here, unable to find peace. And now you have returned, Eleanor replies, her voice laden with complex emotion. The daughter of Marisol and Theodore, the one who could break the cycle, or complete it in a new and terrible way. I don't understand, Amelia admits. What do I have to do with all this? You are the first daughter born of the cycle who has survived, Eleanor explains. In all previous repetitions, if a son or daughter was born to the lover and the husband, the child did not live long enough to return. You are different. You have the blood of both worlds, that of the priestess through Theodore, whose family has occupied these lands for generations, and that of the sacrificed through Marisol, who descended from the indigenous peoples of these lands. And that gives me the power to break the cycle, Amelia concludes, beginning to understand, or to reinforce it in ways I cannot even imagine, Eleanor replies with a somber voice. A heavy silence falls over the mausoleum as the last ray of sun leaves the stained glass window, plunging the place into almost complete darkness, barely illuminated by the bluish glow of Eleanor's spectre. Give me the dagger, Amelia says finally, extending her hand towards the sarcophagus. Trust me. Eleanor floats indecisively between them and the body. How do I know you won't use it to complete the cycle instead of breaking it? Because I am Marisol's daughter, Amelia replies simply, and she always sought truth, freedom, not vengeance. Something in Amelia's words seems to resonate deeply with Eleanor. Her form trembles again, but this time it is as if something is being released within her. With an ethereal gesture, she points towards her body. Take it, she says finally. But remember, the three objects together are incredibly powerful. They can open doors that should remain closed. Be careful what you wish for when you have them all. Amelia nods and with trembling hands approaches Eleanor's body. Gently, she separates the rigid fingers holding the jade dagger. The blade glows with a greenish radiance, in the darkness, as if it had its own light. The moment Amelia takes the dagger, a subtle but profound change occurs in the atmosphere of the mausoleum. It is as if an invisible tension is released, like a sigh of relief after holding one's breath for too long. Eleanor's spectral form seems lighter, more luminous. "Thank you," she whispers, and her voice no longer has the icy edge that characterized it. "Now I must show you something." With a gesture, the spectre points towards the back wall of the mausoleum. The solid stone begins to become translucent, revealing a hidden passage that spirals downwards into the depths of the earth. "This passage leads to the heart of everything," Eleanor explains. "To the original temple that was buried beneath the estate. There you must complete the ritual before the moon reaches its fullness tomorrow night." "What ritual?" Theodore asks, observing the passage with apprehension. "Amelia will know when the time comes," Eleanor replies, her form beginning to fade. Blood remembers what the mind forgets. Before disappearing completely, Eleanor approaches Theodore one last time. Her spectral hand caresses his cheek, though he only feels a slight cold where the ethereal fingers touch him. "I loved you, Theodore," she whispers. "In my own twisted and possessive way, I loved you. I regret all the pain I caused. Forgive me if you can." And with these words, Eleanor's figure dissipates like mist under the sun, leaving behind only a faint scent of jasmine and a feeling of peace that neither of them had felt since their arrival at the estate. Amelia carefully places the dagger with the other two objects in the leather bag. "We must prepare," she says, looking towards the newly revealed passage. "Tomorrow night, when the moon is full, we will descend to the temple." They close the sarcophagus with reverence and leave the mausoleum in silence, each lost in their own thoughts. The night sky above them is clear, the stars shining with exceptional clarity, and on the horizon, the almost full moon watches their return to the estate, patient, eternal, witness to cycles that have repeated since the dawn of time. In the night, as Amelia sleeps, the three sacred objects seem to vibrate with a life of their own on the table beside her bed. The obsidian cup, the silver mirror, and the jade dagger, reunited after centuries, begin to align themselves, forming a perfect triangle. A faint glow emanates from them, casting dancing shadows on the room's walls. And in her dreams, Amelia walks through an ancient temple, where the faces of Marisol Eleanor and an unknown woman in priestess attire merge and separate like water. The three voices speak in unison, revealing to her the ritual she must perform to finally break the cycle that has held so many souls captive for so long. When she awakens at dawn, Amelia knows exactly what she must do. The weight of knowledge is both a burden and a gift, but she is ready to face her destiny, to complete the cycle not with tragedy, but with redemption. The full moon rises in the night sky, bathing Montero Estate with its silvery light. Amelia and Theodore, dressed in white as Rosalind instructed them, descend through the mausoleum's secret passage, lighting their way with torches ignited with a special blend of herbs and resins prepared by the old woman. The passageway spirals downwards, deeper and deeper beneath the earth. The walls, initially of carved stone, gradually give way to natural rock, and finally to older structures, walls carved with unknown symbols, steps worn smooth by the passage of countless feet over millennia. And finally, the temple, a circular chamber excavated in the living rock, with a vaulted ceiling that, surprisingly, shows the night sky through some kind of opening or illusion. The light of the full moon falls directly on a stone altar in the center, where three niches await to receive the sacred objects. Amelia carefully places the obsidian cup, the polished silver mirror, and the jade dagger in their respective places. As she completes this action, a gentle tremor runs through the temple, and the symbols engraved on the walls begin to glow with their own light, bathing the chamber in a multicolored radiance. "What happens now?" Theodore asks, marveling at the spectacle. "Now I complete the ritual," Amelia replies, her voice strangely serene despite the magnitude of the moment. She stands before the altar and, following the instructions received in her dream, takes the jade dagger. Without hesitation, she makes a small cut on the palm of her left hand. The blood, bright in the moonlight, drips into the obsidian cup. With this blood, which is the blood of the priestess and the sacrificed, of the betrayed and the betrayer. I break the cycle of pain that has trapped so many souls, she recites, the words flowing through her as if she had always known them. She takes the silver mirror and places it over the cup, reflecting her blood and the moonlight. The reflection transforms, showing fleeting images of all repetitions of the cycle throughout the centuries. Lovers, to spouses, betrayals, tragedies, over and over in a dizzying kaleidoscope of human suffering. I see the truth in the mirror of time, she continues, her voice acquiring a resonance that is not entirely her own. I see the cycle in its entirety and accept it as part of our history, not as our destiny. Finally, she raises the dagger towards the moonlight, and the jade blade seems to absorb and multiply the silvery glow, illuminating the chamber with an almost blinding light. With this dagger, which has shed blood and tears, I cut the ties that bind us to this cycle. I free the trapped souls and transform the curse into blessing, pain into wisdom, tragedy into redemption. As she utters these words, a ray of moonlight, intensified by the jade of the dagger, strikes the cup with the blood and the mirror, creating a triangle of pure light that expands to fill the entire chamber. Theodore and Amelia are enveloped in this light, which does not burn but purifies, which does not blind but reveals. And in that revelation, they see the shadows, dozens, perhaps hundreds of spectral figures that have been trapped in the temple for centuries, souls captive of the cycle that now begin to ascend, finally freed from their invisible chains. Among them, Amelia recognizes Eleanor, who smiles with genuine peace for the first time. And beside her, holding her hand in a gesture of reconciliation, is Marisol, as beautiful as in her dreams. "You have succeeded, my daughter," Marisol says, her voice clear despite the ethereal distance separating them. "You have broken the cycle and freed us all." "Will I see you again?" Amelia asks, tears streaming down her cheeks. "I will always be with you," Marisol replies with a radiant smile. "In the jasmine in the garden, in the music of the piano, in the dreams that will guide you. But now you must live, Amelia. Live fully without the shadows of the past." The figures begin to fade, ascending towards the opening in the vault, towards the starry sky. The last to depart is the original priestess, who bows her head to Amelia in a gesture of respect and gratitude before dissolving into the light. When everything ends, when the light dims and the chamber returns to the gloom illuminated only by the torches, Amelia and Theodore find themselves alone, but not helpless. Between them there is now an understanding, a bond that transcends blood and time. "What will happen to the objects?" Theodore asks, looking towards the altar where the cup, the mirror, and the dagger remain. "They must stay here," Amelia replies. "This is their place. They have already served their purpose." They leave the temple in silence, ascending the passage that now seems brighter, less oppressive, and when they emerge outside, they discover that dawn is approaching, painting the horizon with the first golden rays. Montero Estate stands before them, but something has changed. The air is lighter, sweeter. The shadows no longer seem to harbor sinister secrets. The invisible weight that oppressed the place has lifted, allowing life to flow again. "What will you do now?" Theodore asks as they walk back to the house. Amelia contemplates the estate, the vineyards stretching as far as the eye can see, the mountains in the distance. This place that has held so much pain, but now offers the possibility of a new beginning. "I will stay," she replies with certainty. "This is my home now. Here are my roots, my history. Here I can build a different future, one that honors the sacrifice of those who came before." Theodore smiles, and for the first time since Amelia has known him, the smile reaches his eyes, illuminating his face with genuine joy. "Then we will start anew," he says, "father and daughter, as it should have been from the beginning." As the sun rises on the horizon, bathing Montero Estate with its golden light, Amelia feels a warm presence around her, like invisible arms embracing her. The scent of jasmine floats in the air, and in the distance, very softly, the notes of the nocturne in E-flat drift on the morning wind, not as a lament, but as a celebration. The cycle is broken, and in its place a new path unfolds, full of possibilities of redemption, of love that transcends time and death.